What's at the top of your worry list, I guess?
I don't know that I have a worry list. I'm excited. You know, I think no matter how long you do this, you love game week, right? That's what we do. That's what we do 365 days a year just to get to this week, right? And so it's exciting. What's really exciting is watching the kids. You know, watching the guys. The guys. They're tired of camp. They're tired of beating on each other. And when you open with a game that's got this much buzz about it, it's really fun for the kids. So it's fun for us old guys too. So I enjoy it, but another game week. So another year, another game week. I'm excited about it.
What areas do you think are it's going to be where you maybe you're the most confident you'll see improvement?
I just think overall defensively we'll be a much better unit than we were. This is a great opening game, right? Because this is such a talented offensive group that we're going to see when you play a quarterback like Spencer Rattler. They check your oil quick. And so I think it's a great opener for us to see where we stand. I feel good about us being a more consistent defense than we were last year. You know, obviously going in, everybody wants to limit the explosive plays, and you know, you have all the list of things that you set out to do, stop the run, all of those things. But in the end, we just have to be more consistent. You know, if you look at it last year, and we try to go back and look at last year, not to compare anything other than just learn from it, right? And one of the biggest takeaways is that we weren't as consistent as we needed to be. And so I think you're going to see a more consistent defense. And I think guys are more confident. I think that, for the most part, there's a much better feel going through the second year, for these guys in terms of comfort level. So I think that'll show up on game day.
Gene, Matt was in here not so long ago talking about Bo Atkinson and Jacoby Collin, saying that those are guys, some of the young guys that are going to play this season. When you watch them, what are some things that they've kind of improved on, and what just sticks out to you about what they're doing?
I love Bo's work ethic. I think that he's always had that. He's put on weight. He's gotten so strong in the weight room. But now you kind of take that, the physical part of this, and now you're starting to have a guy that football IQ wise is starting to really learn how to play at the college level, right? How do you rush the passer? How do you read sets of an offensive tackle? He's starting to become better at his trade in that way, right? Just understanding not only where he fits in the defense, but how to win one-on-one battles. I think that is the thing that stood out to me the most with him, was that he had a very productive fall camp, and you could see noticeable improvement in his craft. When he was running a stunt, or when he was pass rushing, or all of the things that the position that he plays requires, I saw a guy grow. And so, he's a young guy that we think has great potential, but in camp, I think he showed some really, really good flashes of that. And then Jacoby Collin did the same thing. He really came on. He's a big body guy, and we've like stressed over and over to him the importance of him becoming a more physical football player. And Jacoby showed, some signs of that as well. So we're trying to build depth all around the defensive line, as you know. And those two, I think they both of them really had a good camp.
How is DJ Jones right now after having a whole month at Star? And you talked about a couple weeks ago with safety in the spring, now Star. Is he kind of ready to take on a load Saturday night?
I'm really proud of him because making a transition in college from an offensive player to a defensive player is a huge undertaking. And I think, number one, he's handled the challenge like a champ. He has been so, first of all, he's just a hard worker and he loves football. So he just wants to get on the field. And making the transition to safety, and then all of a sudden making the transition to nickel or star, and then having the possibility of having to play both, it requires a lot of studying. It requires a lot of watching film. There's a lot of moving parts to those, and he has really handled it like a champ, and I'm really excited that he is with us. He's a guy that you're going to see play Saturday night, and he gives us flexibility, if you will, with being able to do both. So it'll be interesting to see him play. He's played in games as an offensive player, so it won't be bigger than life for him. But now we get to see him as a defensive player. But really proud of him. Thought he's really come along in terms of his progression and his learning and his production, really. So first game under the lights on the defensive side ought to be fun to watch him.
One other thing on him, hitting as a defensive player as opposed to being hit as a running back, how has he adapted to that? You've had a few scrimmages this month, so where is he as far as that?
Yes. Hit versus being hit is definitely different. I think he likes the second one better. The hitting, I should say, right? I think he's done well. You know, you still have limited opportunities in fall camp to truly tackle live, right? And we feel like we've been very judicious on how much we do it and how much we don't do it. So we've done it enough to feel like we have confidence in him as a tackler. We'll know more when things are live and the lights come on, but I've got no reservation at all about him being able to tackle, being able to cover, being able to adjust, because you got to remember right now, the entire night will be an adjustment because we're not really sure what we're going to see. And he's a guy that's really smart and very cerebral. He understands football, and so, but we're very comfortable with whatever they do, that he's going to be able to adjust to it, and at two different positions, which is very valuable to us.
Gene, staying on the secondary, you know, Elijah Huzzy obviously has been a really impressive dude since he got here in the spring. Obviously, caught you guys' attention in the spring. If you do have to, though, use him at nickel, does that take away from the type of player that he is as a corner? I mean, does that neutralize him in some of the good things that he's done if you do have to play him in nickel?
Yeah, I feel like Elijah is one of those guys that no matter where you put him, he will be productive, because the first thing you really want to go out and recruit is guys at every position, but particularly back there in the secondary. You want to recruit guys with instincts, because we can all put them in positions to make plays, but the guys with true instincts sometimes just feel things and react to things and anticipate things better than others. And he is one of those guys. So whether you play him at corner, which we plan on doing, whether he plays a little bit of star, we feel like wherever we put him, he's a productive guy. So, and he's smart and he understands football, which is always helpful in terms of the flexibility, but he's just a football player all the way around. So we have been very impressed with him up to this point, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play. But he's had a really productive spring and a really productive fall camp, and it's his time, so he'll be excited.
Gene, you've talked about trying to share things on the back end. Matt just talked about the better and increased communication amongst the coaching staff, with Charlton and Jason, kind of having that camaraderie and familiarity with them being at Indiana together. It's how different, from your perspective, has that been for you working with them this offseason?
It's been really good, and you know, we interviewed a lot of guys for Jason's position. He didn't get that position because him and Charlton had worked together before. That certainly did not hurt. We hired Jason Jones because he was the best guy for the job. And the cherry on top was that him and Charlton had worked together previously. I think it's been a very seamless transition. I think Jason Jones has done a fantastic job with our corners. I couldn't be happier with him. When you look at the production, we're getting our hands on balls, whether it's for interceptions or pass breakups, probably more so than we have since I've been here. And he's just done a great job with those guys. So it's always a plus when you have two guys that have to be on the same page that are essentially working together on the practice field all the time. We all obviously work together in the meeting room, but these are two guys that speak the same language. Nothing's foreign to Jason because he's heard a lot of this before, and it's been a really smooth transition. So I'm really happy with it, and I think that just as a general rule, those guys are in lockstep. They're in sync for sure.
Gene, when Matt was in here earlier, he was singing the praises of Cedric Gray. For
Of-
obvious reasons.
of who?
Cedric Gray.
Yes.
For obvious reasons.
Yes.
What do you see as his potential this year? What heights he can reach, coming back? I believe Max said he was aiming to try to get a first round pick and have all of that kind of. What do you see him being able to attain this year?
It was really interesting. When he decided to come back, I never had this conversation with him, but probably about a month ago, I sat down with him. I said, "Why are you back?" I did. That's what I asked him. It was just me and him. I said, "Why are you back?" And he just said, unfinished business, coach. That and he wants to graduate, but he just said unfinished business. He feels like he has more out there to grow. That's what you love about him, right? He could have came out and he could have made a lot of money. And it's very rare these days that guys that could have been drafted as high as he got drafted are going to come back. And so there's always a definitive reason for these guys as to why. And he feels like as a player, as a team, that we left some out there on the table, but for him particularly as a player. And he is he's one of those guys. He's the unequivocal leader, and he's one of those guys that brings it every single day. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts, you're going to see, as productive as he was last year, I think you're going to see a better football player. And I think the reps have accumulated. He feels very comfortable in the defense, and he just needs to stay healthy and play and have fun.
How much easier does it make your job to have someone of his talent, sure, but also someone of his leadership, communication ability out there on the field?
Yeah, what he brings to the locker room is amazing. He can coach guys on the field. He can actually get on other players like a coach would, and he is received as a coach from the other players. So again, when you're just talking about building a culture defensively, those are the kind of guys that you want in place, right? The guys that can be, as we all know, player-led teams are the teams that do the best, right? That's where, in all the great teams that I've been on, every one of them have been player-led. And they've been led by guys like said, who have the ability to do what I just said. Get on a player, coach them, get on them. If they're not doing right, push them. And he's got the ability to do that. So he's a culture builder.
Gene, Mac mentioned with South Carolina also having a first-year offensive coordinator. For you guys defensively, almost the first quarter will be like you guys kind of feeling out, trying to figure out what they're going to do. Guess what kind of approach do you take going into this first game?
Well, you go into these games doing what you do, right? I think our biggest challenge and what we've been working on the most with South Carolina is giving every possible scenario that we can give. Meaning, we call a defense, let's give every possible adjustment, every possible scenario that could happen. There will be only a core amount of true plays that they'll run, and I'll use the run game as an example. Typically, teams will run 3, 4, maybe 5 plays at the most. Where the interesting part is that how they get to them and what formations they get to them out of. So that's where the feeling out process will go, right? So we try to implement a defense and take the defense through the schematic of every possibility that they can give you, and then go to the next defense. And so that's what you have to do, and then you feel them out, and usually after the first quarter you get what you get, and the rest of the game will be that way. So that's kind of the approach we're using.
Gene, how much of a difference maker can Tamari Fox be for you guys?
Really proud of Tamari. I thought he had a really, really good camp, and I think he can be a difference maker. I think he can be a guy. I think he'd be a force on the run. He's got the unique ability, because he's so strong, to be able to hold the point and anchor a point on defense, but he's also got the athletic ability where he can move as well. I thought his pass rush skills and his pass rush ability grew during fall camp. You got to remember, last year he didn't get a lot of reps, so he was catching up in the spring, and then I think he really took it to the next level in fall camp. So I expect a lot out of him. He expects a lot out of himself, but he's going to be he's going to play a huge role on our defensive line for sure.
Gene, how often have you simulated this game that you've had since the schedule came
I try to pretty much take every day, one day at a time. Like I said earlier, these games are really exciting. And it was interesting. My first game as the defensive coordinator ever at UNC was against South Carolina. In the same game, 2015 maybe? Yeah, that was 2015. Time flies. But same game, same drill, and same place. And these games are fun, so I'm excited about it. I don't try to spend too much time on any opponent, until it's time. And so recently, yes, that's all I think about. But great opening game for everybody.
Gene, what is the, sorry, Jim, what are the notes you make on Spencer Rattler as you study him? And, does he remind you of anyone that you all have faced recently, maybe last year, just how they use, we've got a new OC, I was going to say how they use him, but the way he plays, does he bring anyone to mind, and just what are your, sort of the high points you've hit on with him?
Yeah, I don't know that he brings anybody to mind. He's unique unto himself because he brings so many things to the table. He's got an amazing skill set, athletic ability-wise, right? So number one, when you watch him, you're trying to figure out what will they do with him, because he can do so many different things, right? He's very dangerous when he gets outside the pocket. He definitely has the skill to be able to be part of a run game if they choose to use him in that capacity. Throws an amazing deep ball. I mean, he throws like the last 3 games of the season last year, Tennessee, Clemson, Notre Dame. He was on fire right now with just the way he was, his accuracy down the field throwing the football was amazing. I don't care if it's back shoulder throws, always catching, throwing guys open, meaning they never had to break stride on the run to catch the ball. So he did a great job of throwing the deep ball. And so there's just so many things that he does when he's confident, like he was in the last several games of the season. There's nobody better. I mean, he threw it that well. And again, if they complement that with a run game, which I surely feel like Coach Beamer is all in on running the ball, and you complement, what his talents are with a very good complementary run game, you got yourself a tall order to stop a guy like that. But he's very athletic, just incredible last 3 games, and his confidence is sky high, I'm sure. And I'm sure they'll do a lot of the same things with him that allowed for that success. So, but it'll be a great challenge for our secondary, for our entire defense right now when you play your first game against a quarterback like this, who is a definite draft pick.
Last one for Gene. Yeah, Mac and Chip had discussed this. I kind of wanted to ask you the NCAA rule change of the running clock after first downs. Is that anything that you kind of factor into preparation? I know defense isn't as much about calling plays, getting plays out, but is that anything you kind of factor in or think about?
Not necessarily. We know it'll shorten the game. There's some situations where it may factor in, but for us, so many offenses are tempo and anyway, they're running a play, they're getting up there and they're snapping the ball, and we expect this week we expect a lot of that as well, tempo. So our deal is always hurry up, get the call, line up, and get set, no matter what's happening with the clock. Obviously, at the end of games or halves, then it comes into play, where it's back to the old rules. But as far as during the lion's share of the game, it doesn't really bother us.
All right, thanks, Gene.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Gene.
Thanks, guys.
Always good.
Have a great day.
See you Saturday.
Thank you.